Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is G-Man once again with the beautiful Kel in the Matterhorn Studios in beautiful Reno, Nevada. And it's time for What's the Matter podcast show. Woohoo! All right, Kel, you are here again.
I am back.
You are back, Jack.
Must be Wednesday.
Your name's not even Jack.
No.
Jill. You're back, Jill. Awesome. So yeah, let's catch up as we normally do. What's happened this last week? Is your digital nightmares over that
Yes,
you had?
yes.
So yeah, finally got those dialed in.
Yes, everything seems to be good with the tech, knock on wood.
Yay.
Seems to be smooth. Everything's pretty copacetic.
I love
We're okay. Actually, I'm excited. This weekend here in Reno is the biggest little garage sale. It's a huge swap meet at the Livestock Event Center indoors.
Wow. Sounds fun.
Yeah, a friend of mine and I have a table. I'm so excited because where I live, we're not allowed to have garage sales. Oh, there's crap to get.
How can I know where you live? How can you not have garage sales?
We're not allowed.
There's no
The co-
HOA there.
It is.
What?
It's a co-op.
Oh,
It-
did not know that. Well, that makes
Very
sense.
restrictive. And in a lot of ways that's good, but some things are
You never know what you're going to get at a garage sale.
no, and that's gonna be cool. I can't wait for this. This is gonna be really nice.
So what type of stuff
I've got
is going to be
all
there?
kinds of stuff.
Uh-huh.
I have like brand new in box, like electronics, and I have a mini fridge and reverse osmosis water system, stuff I've never even used. I just need to get it out of my house.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah,
Clothes, backpacks,
get rid of some of the
luggage,
clutter before
jewelry.
winter.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of like
Exactly.
fall cleaning. They have spring cleaning.
Yeah.
How come they don't have a fall cleaning? Yeah, we miss that quite frequently too. Specifically in the garage. I don't know what it is, about the garage. Golly, man, my wife, I love her. She's a little pack rat.
I am
Some
too.
things and some things, yeah. It's funny. But you
I
never
have a
know.
hard.
Once every 5 years, she's able to say, "See, aren't you glad I didn't throw that away?"
And that's it. It gets us every time because so many times you'll have that thing. And somebody will say, "Oh, if I only had, I got one."
Did you see that? Like, remember a little while back? I think it was you with that guy in the wire. Remember, he had this spool of wire that he had for like 40 something years,
Yeah,
and he finally got to the end of it, and his wife was kind of bagging on him a
that's
little
funny.
bit. And anyway, yeah, because in that wire that he had is all the memories, all the projects, all the things that he fixed. So there was this unusual
Strange attachment.
relationship.
Yeah. I have things with that too. What I have is back when I was in corporate, I used to be really into tchotchkes.
Okay.
It's like little giveaway, and I was in events. I did events a lot, so there were always, I have more company pins, badge holders. I have a Nokia umbrella.
Wow.
And I can't get rid of my Nokia stuff. I think that was one of my favorite jobs ever. I did a contract for Nokia in 2005 and I got to actually go to Finland and it was wonderful. They are just the coolest people.
Yeah.
And it was a great company at the time. They've lost their mojo. But
they border Russia.
yes.
And a lot of people don't know that.
They hate the Russians.
And they've, of course, historically, there's been some, I guess, mandatory cooperation,
Mhm.
with the
Coerced cooperation.
Ruskies,
Mhm.
but yeah, I've never been there, but
Oh, it's awesome.
I probably won't.
I
probably
got
won't
to
go.
go.
Yeah.
I got to go in May, and it was the
This last
perfect
May?
time.
Oh.
No, this was 20 years ago,
okay.
literally 20 years
Yeah.
ago. And it was the perfect weather because it gets cold there and dark. They're the dark half of the year,
Oh.
and so it's an interesting culture.
So it's not fun to live there, though. It doesn't sound like, unless you have a snowmobile sponsor.
You really have to want it. Really have to want it. Helsinki's not too bad, but the outerlying area get pretty rough.
Well, heck, I'm not going to Finland. I'm just letting you know.
It's a nice place. The food was really good.
Okay, so now you're trying to convince me.
Right.
So let's do this. This week, you had the idea, of course, we kind of said that we're going to talk about side hustles, but a little spinoff of that, I think it's fantastic. You wanted to talk about free will.
Free will.
Yeah, free will. And so looking into it a little bit, of course, there's a couple of different definitions of free will. So let's talk about this. So philosophical definition, and they have it in parentheses as a classical libertarian view, which
Which is
that perked
what I
me
am.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm like, okay, if you're going to force me to be a label, I ain't either one of those labels because you guys are corrupt. I don't want to be complicit in anything y'all are doing. But from a libertarian standpoint, as quirky, as the party made
Platform as the people in
Yeah.
the platform's actually really solid.
Yeah.
A lot of the players
Oh, what's
are a little fringy.
the Vermin guy?
Isn't he funny?
He's hilarious. And even Spike. Spike is hilarious
great.
too.
Spike is actually really good.
Yeah, he's good. So philosophical definition, the classical libertarian view of free will, and you comment on this. So free will is the ability of individuals to make genuine choices that are not determined by prior causes or external constraints. That's a classical libertarian view, philosophical definition of free will.
And read that one more time.
Yeah, it's the ability. Free will is the ability of individuals to make genuine choices that are not determined by prior causes or external constraints. And there, I have 3 definitions. So,
Okay.
so we don't have to delve into, no, I don't agree with that. I think it's this, right? So let's just kind of compare and contrast them. And so, in essence, what this means is that our decisions are not pre-programmed by biology, environment, or fate. And this is often debated in contrast with determinism, which is the idea that every action is caused by preceding events, right? And so what are your first thoughts, on that definition of free will?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any kind of personal anecdotal stories, kind of comparing situations that you've experienced where you're between choosing and being pushed? Right?
It's interesting. The whole concept of free will, I think, gets misconstrued by a lot of people.
Yeah.
They think it means I can do whatever I want and no consequences.
Yeah, and we're going to be talking about
you can't ask me that question. You can't. I certainly can.
We're
My free will says I can ask you the question. You don't have to answer.
Yeah.
Your free will gives you the choice on whether or not to answer, but you have no control over the fact that I'm asking you a question. Yes. And that is not a violation of your free will.
Yeah. See, now you're hitting on this, right? This is you got to the next question, so you're doing good so far. So so how about this? So to that point, is I get this tongue twister here. So is free will real, or is it an illusion?
It's an illusion.
Yeah.
It's in this construct, it's an absolute illusion.
Yes.
There's no question about it.
Yeah.
Now, on the flip side of that, I don't mean that things are predetermined necessarily.
Yeah.
That aspect of free will, that's kind of a whole nother, that's almost an existential, spiritual, metaphysical discussion, factor. Which we can go right there. But I think what we're talking about here in actual application is, choices. And in this construct, we are limited. Humanity is deeply limited. We don't want to think so, especially here in America, where we're told that we're free and we're this and that.
That's the whole thing.
And we have a document that says so. Well, yeah. And then there's also 350 million other people in this country that also have free will. So really, free will is an energy, and it's...
So not define, but describe the ones that you're alluding to that do have free will. Are these the billionaires, the oligarchs?
Not even them. They have, I mean...
Is it indigenous people living in peace and harmony when all the 3 necessities of life are there: food, shelter, clothing, and they don't have to chase the mighty dollar? Is that when they can get up every morning and say, I'm going to go down the ocean today, or climb that coconut tree?
Constraints within that.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean?
Because there's the big guy in the village still. And if you say something wrong to his wife...
people who also have, their own path and their own things that they're doing.
Yeah.
So, you can't just go out in the world.
Yeah. Well, there's always going to be that social construct.
Of course.
Yeah. No, I'm talking about, let's say, again, bad reference, because I'm not a fan of his anymore, but Tom Hanks in the movie where he's Wilson. So deserted island, let's say you don't have people. You're just there surviving, but you have everything that you need. Would you still say that person doesn't have free will?
That person has probably the most free will.
Yeah.
Someone who is completely alone.
Yeah.
Provided for.
Right.
Or can provide for themselves with the resources they have available. And does not, there's no one else to interfere with or interfere with you.
Exactly.
It's really potential interference
Yeah.
is what affects free will.
Right.
It's potential, it's other boundaries, other people's boundaries, other organizations' boundaries, other, within any organized construct, you have to have that.
So I think we're in agreement on this, in that it just seems like it's a feel-good idea, but we're not really actually living out true free will, because even our animal primal urges are restrained, right? So
Right.
ultimately, because, just like if I wanted to do something, but it would put me in jail, do I have free will? Or just do I have...
You have the free will to make the choice to follow through with that. The
But
consequence
that's what I started to say, yeah. The
is
consequence is
not
built in.
free.
And that's, I
You
guess...
don't. That's the thing with free will.
Uh-huh.
You have free will to make the initial choice. You
Mhm.
have no control over the consequences.
So there's a what you're doing is you're separating the difference between a want, need, or desire, and actually following that want, need, or desire with an action,
Yes.
however appropriate or inappropriate it may be.
Right. And taking the action is the point of which free will comes into play. You
Right.
can think all day long.
Okay.
I can think whatever I can sit here and think. I will just
That's not illegal yet.
right.
Working on it, though.
I'm not so sure about that.
You don't think they're working on how to, like, stifle or control our thoughts?
I don't think it's possible. And
Well,
that's why
but do you think
why
they
they
would
work so hard in
try?
controlling our mind.
Yeah.
Because you can't control the thoughts, but you can control you can control the action based
Uh-huh.
on it.
What if they had a mind reading machine? Would that be game over for us?
And we're getting there.
Yeah.
We're getting there with telepathy.
Mhm.
But no, even still, I still think, I mean, they have the ability to alter our thought processes. They don't yet quite have the ability to fully read them
Right.
accurately and know for
Yeah,
sure.
they can profile.
You can profile, you can get impressions, you can, but it's and again, the whole point to that is why? Why, like that's a lot of work to control that much information, that many people, that much, to what end? They've got us already.
So would you say that our choices are shaped by deeper forces regarding free will? For example, trauma,
Sure.
the systems that we're kind of alluding to,
Absolutely.
society in general.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Programming, media, we get shaped by and influenced by all kinds of things. That's why understanding free will and discernment is so important, because
Mhm.
that way you get to have as much agency over it as you can, even though, we'll never be able to fully control it.
Understood. Now, a couple of other definitions just to compare and contrast. So one of them is more of a philosophical free will, where free will is, it says, the power of acting without the constraint of necessity or fate.
And okay, and I think that is where a lot of people misconstrue, thinking I can just do whatever I want. Free
Mhm.
will just means I can just go out and clearly you can. I mean, you can't shout fire in a crowded theater and
Right.
things like that. But I think that definition is the one that most people take the wrong way.
I just thought of a good definition of maybe the misunderstanding or misuse of free will. Let's say, like, you have a parent that's paying for college, right?
Mhm.
And then in college, there's no attendance department like in high school,
Mhm.
right? And so if you have a teacher, an instructor, a professor that says, "Hey, so here's the deal. I don't grade on attendance. You guys are adults. It's up to you to know it. If you can come to this class once the entire semester and pass the test, then that's good on you. But if you need to attend every class, that's on you." Right? And so after hearing that, then the kid, say, doesn't go to many of the classes at all. He's, going out and experiencing life as a
Mhm.
youth and all the temptations that may befall him. And then they get that report card and the parents find out about it and they cut him off. That would be extreme. But the point is that there's that point of free will where they certainly have the free will and they kind of misunderstand what the instructor in that...
Mhm.
was that a good analogy? I
It is.
guess.
It's a
Yeah.
very good
Okay.
analogy. That's an excellent analogy. It's like, you know, here's here's the freedom. You have the freedom to come and go as you please, show up or not, whatever. But if you don't, and you needed that information,
you're going to have to pay the piper. Now, what about the scientific one? So scientific definition of free will, this is actually kind of fascinating. Studies show our brains make decisions milliseconds before we become aware of them.
yes. Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah, before we are aware that I just made a decision, the decision was made milliseconds and we're
Our subconscious is already on it before we even recognize that, and then we think,
right.
oh, I made that choice. I made that decision, but your body actually is the one that did.
So do you think there's anything to, of course, when you're born, like we've talked about before, you can't control who your parents are, the environment you're born in, or anything like that. But do you think there is biological programming?
Oh, certainly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called genetics.
And then where does the responsibility lie?
Still, it doesn't biologically, whatever your body does, we still have to have control over it. I mean, we still have, ultimate domain over what our bodies do. They may confuse us from time to time, and we may not, we may put ourselves in situations or, use substances that, disable the ability to control that, but it's still your responsibility.
Yeah. They call that the age of accountability, I think. Now, do you think that free will is the same as just having options?
There's nuance there because you also have to deal with the question of, are things predetermined, which is a part of the whole concept of free will. So no, it's not, it's more than just making choices, but it's the having of those choices that makes it free will.
Yeah. But does the choice really mean freedom, or is it just a different type of control?
That's a great question. The freedom is in the choice, not necessarily the choices you get.
That's one of the greatest powers that we do choose.
Like that's where the freedom and free will comes in, is having the ability to choose between the options, but those options themselves are not part of.
So let's delve into the science, a little bit of spirituality, society, that one definition of determinism that we spoke of. But, kind of like, I guess the question is it kind of still kind of behave like an algorithm, as if we're being guided? For example, between neuroscience and psychology, most daily decisions are made subconsciously, just like we're talking about, right? Habits, triggers, environments, those types of things steer us. And so as far as the free choice, again, it's interesting that the free choice, how do we get from, say, that subconscious decisions and then making a conscious decision to choose differently?
That's a good question. That's a real good one.
Yeah.
That's a real good one. Especially since most people don't even have no idea how their bodies really work.
Right.
And they this concept to them that there's a mechanism within them that could make a decision before they consciously do, scares the crap out of people. And it makes them be a little dependent, like a little, like, oh, I can't control that. Oh, I'm just at the whim of whatever,
Well, when we were having pizza a couple of weeks ago, it was weird for me not to have a beer. Like, there's some foods that are just like a beer, cerveza with Mexican food, normally beer with pizza, type of thing. And although it was refreshing, and I'm glad that, that I, choose not to, because you gotta, just kind of say, no, I don't need that right now. Is that Tim?
No, it's my friend. It's my friend Ben.
Oh, okay. Is he coming in?
Come on, man.
I don't have a setup for him. I didn't know somebody else was coming in.
Hi. We don't have a mic for you, but if you want to say hi.
I wore my not wearing a mic hat.
You
Awesome.
can have a seat if you want to.
Yeah.
This is
How you
great.
doing?
Great.
Brady.
This is Peter Clark.
Nice to meet you, Peter.
We call him Tiger.
Tiger. Peter's in the booth.
He's actually been part of the station before.
I love it. I love it. So we're talking about free will today, Peter. So yeah,
A favorite topic of mine.
awesome.
I come bearing gifts.
Sure, we can. Oh, how nice.
Hold on. Thank you.
Thank you. How do we?
No. These tobacco state, Texas. Stumbling to all that. You guys, I'm going to sit down. I mean, I'll just. Plus, I get this really bad JFK Jr. thing going on.
Awesome.
Will I hear you?
You can get on Podbean. Download the Podbean app. That's where we're broadcasting, and it goes live.
All right. Back to the show.
Yeah.
Let's see. What do I got that? Do I got anything for that?
Oh, that's good. I like that.
All right. So now what are we talking about? So
Talking about free will.
neuroscience and psychology. So yeah, so the things that are made subconsciously, our habits, triggers, environments, steers, just like I was talking about. And so how did I do this? So let's break that down a little bit. Where I love beer, but I don't drink as much as I used to. And, I just got things to do. And, after a couple of them, I'm just full
Sure.
of the beer. Yeah. You know what I mean? So the whole thing to get intoxicated and stuff like that. I don't know. Just kind of got past that.
Oh gosh, yeah.
But talk about mentally, what did I do, when I said, okay, so I'm going to break my habit and I'm not going to have a beer. I'm going to have.
You exercised your free will. That's a perfect example.
Well, what happened inside my head that motivated me to do that? There's obviously some rational.
Yeah, something your brain made a comparison and said, and this happens in split second.
Yeah.
I mean, you
That's what I
can
was alluding
sit
to.
down and consciously hash it out with yourself, but this decision you made was involuntary, split second. Somehow in your head you weighed, if I do this, I'll get this effect. If I do this, I'll get this effect. And you chose to abstain because
I think it was just because occasionally I just want to make sure that I'm the one that's in control of the decisions instead of the beer.
Instead of the archons. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's really, and what that also does is too, that novelty it'll knock something in your neural system that makes you do something or see something or feel something or think something different, if only for that split second.
Yeah.
But it's powerful.
Even if it was just like taking a break from that routine, and then it kind of gives you an appreciation, just like, this Arnold Palmer's, it's pretty good. It's nice and refreshing, but it's just not the same as the beer.
Sure. And that's perfectly fine conclusion to come to.
Yeah.
But
like
until you explore it, you won't know that.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it. That's you have the ability to make different choices at any given time, even if your routine has been the same for 50 years.
Yeah.
You, at any given moment, you have the ability to say, I'm going to do something different today.
I need to lose 15 pounds. Starting to manifest it right now.
Well, then you don't want to say you need it.
That's true.
You want to say,
I'm
losing 15 pounds. My body is perfectly healthy.
It's next time.
My body wants healthy food.
Just not in the next 2 weeks.
Positive. Because your brain edits out negative. It edits out.
I'm like visualizing myself doing Rocky and, getting up 5 o'clock in the morning and chugging down a couple of eggs and going for my job.
And the beauty of that's a whole other thing. We see all these damn movies and TV shows and all these muscle growth people looking all blah, 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 allegedly healthy. They're roided out like crazy. Don't kid yourself to think they're not.
Right.
And when it psychs people out to make them think that in order to get that result, they have to do a bunch of things they don't want to. Go to a gym, work out for 3 hours a day, raw eggs or whatever. And none of that is true. One bit of it.
My challenge also is having done that stuff before back in, when you're young and all full of testosterone.
That stuff doesn't really work very well.
Well, no, I had to do it to be able to get on the baseball and football field, right? You got to be able to show in practice. If you can't do it in practice, you can't do it in game. That's just old school stuff, right? But I would talk myself into getting up early and going down there, being 15 minutes early and doing all the things that I had to do that were physically uncomfortable because I like cheerleaders.
Okay, whatever motivates you.
You know, the high school friends that hear this, they're just like, he did, huh? He did, yeah.
That guy.
No, I was in the background, nice, but they can control my thoughts.
Right.
So, but let's talk about the free will in regards to like technology and the algorithms and stuff
Yeah,
like that. So
that's where it really
social
hits the
media,
road.
yeah, social media, Amazon suggestions, Google searches, all this stuff. Here's I guess the assertion. So all of these things choose for us more than we even realize.
Big time.
Goodness gracious.
Way more than you realize.
Yeah.
Way more. Basically, they have figured out how to hook dopamine.
I know. I get on, I have the password to my wife's Amazon.com account. And so I get into her shopping account. I'm like, what is this in here for? She's just like, that's none of your business.
Right.
It's just a shopping cart. Oh,
Can't you?
yeah. But anyway, yeah, let's talk about that. First of all, I want to mention this book, The Age of Surveillance Capitalism by Shoshana Zuboff.
Wow, surveillance capitalism.
Yeah, the age of surveillance capitalism.
I've heard it called the attention economy.
Well, when you think about it,
surveillance capitalism.
well, because that's why they're doing all these analytic tracking and the cookies, and will you accept the cookies or you just want the functional ones? Well, yeah, because they're finding out every decision that we make and why.
And absolutely. And they aren't having to figure out anything. They're running it through AI.
Yeah.
And just pressing buttons.
Yeah, we've all heard of what Zuckerberg's been doing with Facebook and the things that Twitter was doing, before the Elon dude, got it and stuff.
YouTube, all of it.
So
it's very
what can we do about it?
The only way to avoid it is to stay off of it.
Well, they
can't. I mean, how is that possible?
It's at a minimum difficult
to
in
stay
today's
involved in.
If you're not online, you will be made fun of. You'll be saying, "Oh, this is one of those old people.
That's
that's not going to be able to get it." Yeah,
you have to be online to bank, to do anything with the government pretty much these days.
Yeah, unless you're hoofing
to deal with any of the big companies. Like they don't even have phone people anymore.
Yeah.
What I'm talking about is social media and media in general that have an influence we don't think about because, that's just entertainment. That's just what I do in my quote unquote off time.
Scrolling.
As you're sitting in your office and, you can't finish a report because you got to grab that phone and you don't know why.
I'm not going to mention who,
yourself.
But I am continually at this one facility and they have security there. And so from a job performance standpoint, especially in light of like what happened yesterday, oh my gosh, in New York City, right?
And what happened this weekend at
GSR, that's exactly right. So from a security standpoint, this particular post is always on his phone, and people coming, people going, but there's no even look up, there doesn't even look up. It's just like,
you're kidding.
Nah, yeah. I see.
Security guard.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Even if that's from time to time, you need to be on guard. Pun intended.
Thank you.
Yeah.
See, now that's where it gets dangerous. It's one thing if you're Susie's secretary or, Holly the HR lady or whatever, and you're, if you're not paying 100% attention, it's not going to affect people's lives.
This could.
In that case, it absolutely could. And I have a feeling I know where you're talking about.
Yeah. A false sense of security, right?
Absolutely.
Oh, there's another pun. What's going on here? Do I have a sound effect for that?
Well, and that's the whole thing. This is the interesting thing about humanity. We kind of, as a society, especially here in America, kind of have these unspoken sort of agreements with each other that we'll just behave a certain way and nobody's going to cause any drama and we'll all just
don't rock the boat.
Rocking the boat. But then you get that one, that one piece of popcorn that starts, and then there's clusters, that copycat effect.
Yeah.
Mirror neurons start kicking in.
There's this one picture of a big group of people and everybody's cheering, yay, stuff like that. And there's one guy standing in the middle with his hands There's arms
Arms crossed.
crossed. Yeah. And the thing says, be this guy. And I'm like, I relate to that. I don't know.
I
Do you
disagree.
enjoy being?
No, I disagree.
I guess I was
there's a
alluding to
whole
contrarian.
there's a Buddhist. Okay, now I get
That's what
contrarian thing for sure.
that's what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
I'm a
Do
contrarian.
something different.
Yeah.
Don't go with the crowd.
Yeah.
But being a stoic in a crowd full of excited people, but that's bullshit.
I think it was like, again, just imagine, say back in the day to use I don't know. I'm not saying this is true, but let's say back in World War II. Let's say that, Hitler was out there firing up the crowd, talking shit about the Jews and stuff like that, right? And then in that situation, if everybody's saying, yeah, let's get rid of them, stuff like that, and there's one guy standing there just like, are you fucking kidding me?
That's
that's what I'm talking about. That's stand up for the right thing.
Yeah. No.
Separate yourself from the crowd.
I pictured a concert.
Oh no, it was
with a bunch of happy, excited people going on.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
That I'm on.
Type it.
Thought it was somebody trying to bring down the energy of everybody else, thinking they were too exuberant.
I don't think so. I think it was a very discerning, this is whack, type of stuff. But back to the technology, I guess the question to move on with is, are we actually online, internet, are we actually choosing, or are we being nudged now with all of this stuff?
Nudge nothing. We're being heavily influenced.
Yeah. I mean, you sometimes you're having a conversation and all of a sudden there's an advertisement about what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
That just comes out
Which
of nowhere.
Will happen if you don't turn off all your settings.
Right.
I go in the minute I get a new phone. Sounds, trash.
Okay. That's probably a good idea. So what do you think? What's more dangerous, to have no choice, to have no free will, or to have a manufactured choice?
Oh, manufactured's definitely better.
Yeah. So
because we can delude ourselves into evolving by believing that if this is just the way it is and that's the way it is and you just have to comply with it, there's no reason to evolve. There's no reason to.
Is that being cynical or is it being realistic?
No, I mean we do have choices. Sometimes they're not the best. Sometimes they're not what we would prefer.
Well, that's what I'm saying earlier when I'm saying sometimes we think that we have a choice, but it's not really a choice. It's the only viable option.
Like the lesser of two evils.
Yes.
But even still, I mean, if you've gotten yourself in a situation where you're in that hard of a choice, you need to look at the trajectory of how you got there.
Well, yeah. And sometimes, though, that's where the trauma stuff comes in. It's things that are out of your control that happen.
But how often does that happen? So rare. Rare.
I guess that's a good point.
Truly. We all day long, we're like, oh, what if this? What if this? What if this happened? What if I do this and the cop gets me? Or what if this and my mom yells? Or the boss fires me?
Yeah.
99.99999% of the time, none of that stuff is ever going to happen.
Well, and that's why worry doesn't do anything. Only action, cures situations. And
until you've taken action,
that's thought process stuff.
Yeah.
So, okay. Now, how much agency do you really have if you can't see the options that you're not shown?
Like the you don't know what you don't know philosophy. In that case, it's not part of the equation until you find out about it afterwards and go, oh, damn, I wish I'd known.
Does that hindsight 20? Okay.
And again, and that's, I think part of how this construct works is that type of experience so that we can go, oh, okay, I won't do that again. Or, oh, I'd like to do that again. That was successful. I'll do more of that.
So do you think that because let's say, for example, we live in a free country. And so do you think that we are addicted to an illusion of being in control when we're really not?
I think America was an experiment to see how much people could handle. Like how willing were people to be responsible for themselves?
So you're talking about how responsible they are once they get power?
Just in general, just once they get freedom, once they get out from under the oppressive rule that England was at the time.
because you go back.
I'm going
then.
I'm going
Yeah.
back to Constitution
Yeah.
when the country was first formed.
Right.
And so,
That's
it's
actually a good one. Yeah, because like let's say you're dissatisfied with what was going over there in England, and then you had the free will to stay or risk your life and travel the Atlantic and all the possibilities that may happen.
and it worked.
Yeah.
But I think it was to kind of see what would happen if we don't have this oppressive rule. And and then of course people wimp out on responsibility and wanting to be accountable. So now we have a repressive rule again. But it was not designed this way. And people are now we're starting to evolve to the point where enough of us are starting to go, yeah, no, this isn't the way it's supposed to be.
Right. Exactly. Because there's
it's just not working.
the theory, and the application. And then people are saying this is not the application that we were taught in civics class. Things are a little skewed here.
And what skews free will more than anything is subversion and corruption that we can't control, that a lot of people don't even know is going on. So when you're literally fighting invisible forces, it makes it definitely.
So those invisible forces, is that kind of the neuroscience that they
No. I mean, like control structures. Like human control structures, everything from government to, the industrial complexes, the military industrial complex, the medical industrial complex, the government industrial complex, all these things that have been industrialized and taken over to where we don't, I mean, small business, look at what happens. Look at what's happened to small businesses just here in Reno alone. How many restaurants did we lose last week? 3? Because of the chainification of this place. It was never like that. We never had these chains. We kept them out for the longest time. And a lot of times they didn't want to come here because there was, the economy wasn't good enough. Well, now we're being overrun and it's killing our mom.
You're talking about the influx of
The
a
retail
lot of
industrial complex.
right.
And which is all higher up corporate.
Do we have too many restaurants?
There's no such thing as too many restaurants.
Right.
It's the quality, the quantity, the price, the health,
Yeah.
big corporates.
There are a lot of places to eat around here. That's a nice thing.
Not too many good ones anymore.
That's true.
We used to have some amazing, amazing places.
So as far as free will and again, basically religion, spirituality, without getting into any kind of dogma, there's a lot of, I guess, slanting towards predestination, and that, we're
we have
here,
control and
predestination. And also now that there is predestination and you're here because of the creator, but now you have this choice. So you started out with this predestination, you're sent, here as a blessing. Now you're on your own. Yeah, but now you're on your own. So that's always an interesting little paradigm, there to me, how somebody can say, it's meant to be. This is my destiny. And then when things don't go right,
I mean, some things, there's no question about that. The forces that control that may not be quote unquote predestined energetically, but that was your destiny could very well be a part of your contract. One of our current contracts. So, at that point, it becomes interesting because you're like, okay, how much of when I think I'm choosing is really something I set up? You can't. It's too that kind of rabbit hole to go down in that.
What is that phrase? The karmic contract. So you're talking about karma,
yes,
right?
Yes.
And so what is that?
What is it's not what a lot of people think. Most people think karma is like punishment, consequences if you do something wrong.
I thought it was you
karma
get.
too.
I thought it was you get what you give.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much. It's an energetic. It's an energetic exchange. Choices have consequences, kind of thing.
Right.
And so we have agreements that we make in past lives prior to coming here when we're still in spirit. And, like we were probably contracted to do this, create this podcast at some point. And the thing with that is,
I can't remember who my agent was.
I know, right? I'll have my people call your people. So when contracts can be broken. They're not like you can't, once you become aware, but that it's becoming aware of it. And once you realize, like, and most karmic contracts are negative. Like when you really feel them, when you're like, oh, this is a karma. It's usually because there's some kind of pull, and you keep getting back into the same type of situation, whether it's with the same person, same type of person, same situation, same whatever, until you realize what's going on. And at that point, when you make a different decision, that can break a contract.
When you exercise
You
that
can
free will.
consciously say, I am cutting this cord, I'm breaking this contract. That will have the effect. Most of the time, what we do is we just simply make a different decision and take a different action.
Makes sense.
And that looks like a big karmic thing is narcissists, relationships with narcissists.
Right.
That is often very karmically derived. And it's when the abused, the one who's being victimized, finally wakes up and goes, what the hell am I doing? Why am I doing, why am I still involved with this person, this situation, whatever? And they go no contact, and they change their whole routines, and they change everything they were doing, and all of these negative things that were dragging them down. Suddenly they see them as clear as day, and they go, I will never do that again.
Yeah. 180 degrees opposite.
180 degrees. And that's when you're like, okay, that contract is done.
So now on some of these social dynamics, let's talk about how race, certainly gender, economic class, how those things intersect with the agency of free will.
Not so I like that. I think that the choices that are presented,
well, I guess
different.
I could have framed that better. So between those things of race and gender, of course there are stereotypes,
Of course.
and that's part of, again, the environment that's sometimes just built in, to our free will or not.
Everybody has free will. Whether or not there are external oppressive forces is a whole nother issue.
I guess like a good thing,
But they
or
still have
not a
free
good
will.
thing, but one where, let's say again, conservative family. And then so you and Adrian were talking about how you guys are little tomboys.
Yeah.
Right. So what if you had an agency in that family that says you're a girl, and we're not having any of this? You see what I'm saying?
I knew people.
Well, for sure.
Yeah, I knew lots of people.
Yeah. So I guess that's the whole thing, is that there's almost like not absurd, but an extreme pushback when that individual does have the power of choice and free will. And, I don't know why I'm bringing this up. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Yeah. And that's just one example.
You don't.
For sure.
I mean,
yeah.
You simply don't.
What
and
are you
then
gonna
up till you're 7 or 8 years old, you're a sponge, you're a recorder, you're
For sure.
theta, and you don't even have the ability to discern the information that you're being given. You just take it all in. So no, I mean, free will doesn't really, get developed until later.
Well, almost until, you leave the nest, right? Because if you're like
Pretty
relying
much.
on people,
Pretty much.
because it's I'm taking from this, like free will is like when you actually possess personal agency.
That's the ultimate definition of it. It's personal
Yes.
agency.
So you don't have free will until you can take care of yourself, for the most part.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much. I mean, you have free will choices, but you don't have ultimate free will until you are fully self-responsible, self-accountable, self-supporting, not necessarily exclusively. It doesn't mean you're not interdependent and have other things, but at any given point, you could separate and go on your own way and do whatever, you need to do on your own without having to be negatively affected by that split or that separation.
I can remember being in my young 20s also, and you're just, I guess at that point you start looking at and taking inventory of where you're at, why you are where you are as compared to other people that may have been born with a silver spoon, or whatever, and you start
or
you almost
had less than you and have exceeded you.
Well, yeah, but the point is that you're taking this personal inventory, and I was just like, I'd be doing a lot better if I had this advantage or that advantage. And I learned, that all that stuff doesn't matter. You have to draw a line and then take control. That's where you're taking personal agency, is where you say, if it's to be, it's up to me.
That's it. And I mean, that's the crux of it right there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, we can be victim all day long. Oh, well, I would have done this, but they did this or that happened, or, you know, somebody else this. They wouldn't give me that. They wouldn't do this. They this, that, the other. You know, and that, you know, that may very well be true, but it didn't technically affect your free will.
Right.
You just didn't like the outcome.
Ah, that's a good one. That's why I didn't like that outcome when I didn't have the beer.
Yeah. Well, now you know.
So
see, this is what we do. I mean, I think, you know, the whole point of free will is this testing thing. Do I want to do this? Do I want to do this? Well, let's do this. Oh, I didn't like that. Let's do this the next time.
Right.
I mean, that's really
some people date like that.
Right.
That's
true.
So practical social definition: free will is the capacity to act in accordance with one's values, preferences, and reasoning without coercion or undue influence.
Mm-hmm.
So why do we pay taxes then?
I really don't know, to be completely honest with you.
I bring that up because you mentioned it a couple times over the last few weeks. It's just like disobedience, you know, would be don't pay tax. I'm scared of that because like they did put Wesley Snipes in jail. It was like $3 million or something like that, but they do put people in jail.
That's different. That's
how they got Capone.
That's one guy. That was one guy. This has to be a concerted effort where
stop.
Just stop.
What would happen? What would they do? Like project, see what would they do if we just would
realize,
but don't they
has the power?
Don't they have the power to get into our bank accounts though and levy or garnish stuff like that?
With the level of administrative and IT,
those guys are terrible. IRS is terrible. I mean, I'm just saying.
Obviously, we have a collective need for services and things like that. I don't disagree with
taxes. I can pay taxes. I just want it to be indirectly. I don't want it to be. It's not supposed to be on our income.
No, it should strictly be through user fees.
Yes.
Because if you don't use it, you shouldn't have to freaking pay.
That's what Jefferson wanted, Benjamin Franklin.
Absolutely.
You know, so the scourge of the planet is the Federal Reserve, just so you guys know.
Correct.
Yeah. And, I mean, one of the worst.
Yeah. And the fact that people don't even know how the system works, the fact that taxes aren't even supposed to be on the citizens. That was for Americans working abroad.
Well, and the original income tax, even the 1913, was only for the top 1% of wage earners.
And they didn't want to enumerate it because they thought people would. They were going to cap it at 6%, and they thought people would revolt because it was too high.
They just keep going and going and going.
It was never even properly ratified. There were 36 states.
Yeah.
Philander Knox was supposed to get signatures for. He only got 34.
We're on the same page, Chica.
Believe me, I've known this for decades.
Yeah, and most people don't.
Nope. And then they want to argue about it.
Yeah, like, most people think Congress kids. They think the Federal Reserve is part of the government.
Right.
They don't know that it's a private banking cartel. You know, so, and that's why, and what's crazy, again, if you think about it, I don't know where we start talking about this, but might as well finish. So private stockholders, that are all private bankers. That's who owns, the Federal Reserve is.
It was 8.
So you can't get in that club. You can't go on the New York Stock Exchange and buy stock in the Federal Reserve. So yeah, those are the guys. And I have to say, well, I better not say it.
At this point, it just needs.
I'm just
like people are like, oh, audit the Fed. Yeah, don't bother. It's it's so far beyond that.
That's not going to happen. They're not going. They're not going. We have no power
because what's going to
do that.
What's going to happen is the people that control that shit now are all going to die, and the rest of us have said forever that this isn't working. This isn't what we want, and it's all going to collapse.
That's the thing. That talk about free will. So this is often used, right, in legal settings, political, ethical discussions, is did they act of their own free will? So that's actually a good question.
Who acted?
Like all these guys that are ripping us off. Like, the money laundering and everything that's going on in our government.
That's a very interesting question. Initially they acted on their free will because
people have to tell them this is the way things work around here. You can either be in the club or you're going to be out of the club.
Right. And at that point, if they had true accountability and ethics, and they would say, I'm out.
Right.
And not only that, I'm going to do everything I can to take you down.
And some of them do, but yeah, I think they also find out
because
that
they get seduced.
yeah, and there are hit squads out there.
Oh no,
there are people with enough money and connections that if they want to take people out, they can take them out.
That isn't done as much anymore. Now what they do is they just destroy. They don't risk
Reputation.
They don't risk murder anymore. They just ruin you publicly.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fake. They can do it fake. You get in there and they sit you down and they say, okay, here's what you're going to do and here's how it's going to work.
Right.
And you start going, no, I'm not. Wait, what? No.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes, you are. And if you don't,
yeah,
here's the video we're going to show people of you having sex with prostitutes. And here's a video
20.
of you doing coke.
That's right.
Deep fakes are an absolute thing and have been for a lot longer than people realize.
I agree.
And they have no compunction.
So let's switch up. Still, we're going to stay on free choice, free will, but we're going to talk about a seemingly unrelated thing called the side hustle.
That really plays into free will because so many people, there's two things at play here. One is people just needing extra income and,
Well, that's my first question to you. Are people doing side hustles for freedom or are they doing it out of desperation?
There's a double-edged sword there because I think a lot of people think their side hustle can eventually become their main gig and they'll be able to dump the day job. And it's a lot harder than people think.
Yeah, well, yeah.
And so I think people start out a side hustle all excited, the idea of, we'll start out small and we'll do this little side thing at first. And when it takes off, then I'm hit the ladder.
Kind of like podcasts.
Right, right. And then there's, 763 billion of them out there. And it's like, okay, great.
I think it's 5 million or something like that in the United States.
Just million?
5 million.
Million podcasts. That's it?
Yeah.
Huh.
That's what I'm saying. Scratching the surface. Scratching the surface.
Awesome. But so, yeah, it's, I think people start, on one path with it and then.
Well, that's the whole question. I mean, are people doing these side hustles, because it's a passion of theirs, or are they doing it, kind of like a plan B for survival?
I think a lot of people start out because it's a passion and then they realize it's another job.
Or because
they don't know how to do the business side of running a business. They just want to do what they do. Cake decorating, party balloons, event planning, whatever. But then there's a whole, kit and caboodle of accounting, payroll, taxes, insurance, liability, technology that you also have to do. So people get into it thinking, oh, I'm just going to make cakes out of my house and sell them to people.
Yep. Now you're talking business detective stuff.
Yep. And then it turns into a nightmare.
For
they have no idea how to do the business of running a business. In a lot of cases, then you get people that get it, buy franchises or buy somebody else's business thinking they're going to, quit their day job and they want themselves another job.
Now, do you think that people choose their side hustle or does the side hustle choose them? Still basically related.
It's a little bit of both, I think.
Because it still comes down to qualifications, right?
Qualifications,
what you're just talking about.
Resources, of course, with anything. But I think a lot of people have these little savant talents that that they do. That's really who they are, how they express themselves, and then they go to work and play Joe character all day long. And I think a lot of people too, though, with side hustles, think they want to do their passion full time, get into it, and lose the passion,
right?
Because it turns into another
job. Because it's not fun when you're doing it for money, right?
I was a rock journalist. I would not take money. I got free tickets and passes. That was my thing, get to hang out with the rock stars and, get the articles and get my name in papers and stuff. But I would not take money because I knew every job I'd ever had, I've ended up despising.
Because of the money, would you do it over again?
Oh,
like
absolutely.
If you were saying, if I would do that again, I'm getting money next time with all the other stuff.
There wasn't much money either. At least not for, I could have gone to Rolling Stone. Didn't want to. Had no interest because I never had to be assigned a story. I picked all of my own stories.
How did you
pick
them?
No one ever edited me.
Right.
Because my stuff was so clean being submitted.
Right.
So I got
didn't have to worry about you.
I never had to worry about having to talk to some band I knew nothing about, didn't care about, wasn't into, would have to toe a corporate line, would have to, censor myself, whatever. I never had to do that in almost 30 years of doing this because I picked and chose my assignments. I stayed freelance the whole time and it was worth it.
Fun.
Yeah, it really was.
Yeah, you got some good stories. I haven't even heard hardly any of them, but you got some good ones.
I do. Yeah,
So,
those are good times.
So let's see. Looking at the side hustle culture right now, it says 40% of Gen Z and millennials report having at least one side gig.
Huh.
40%,
Interesting.
isn't it? So is that, again, does that speaking to ambition or is it desperation?
No, I
Because
think,
the wages are not keeping up with inflation.
no, well, I think that's part of it. But I think a lot of it, again, is part of this attention economy crap, where these kids are such attention whores.
You mean as far as like being influencers and the social media?
I mean, like, I question this whole influencer economy and stuff like that. To me, it's very hollow.
It's probably the same thing too as professional athletes. You're talking about of all the influencers in the world, the top 1% are probably making the money.
Not even so much that. It's that like everybody's hyping. It's kind of like NFTs in crypto. People hyping up or pump and dump scams, same kind of thing. You get enough momentum and enough hive mind thinking that there's something there, and all they're doing is passing around the same money until somebody realizes, wait, there's no there.
Right.
And it collapses. I'm still shocked at the ad money that Google and Facebook and all these companies command, because like banner ads.
Yeah, and then a lot of people
click on a banner ad or watch a full ad of anything that comes up on your YouTube or ever. Never. I never do.
I don't click.
The only thing I click on is like free classes or like a free webinar, free, like I never click anything that would make me have to pay for something.
Oh yeah.
Or if it does, I dump it. I'm not interested. But other than that, I completely ignore all advertising. Period. End of story. It doesn't affect me in any way.
Now, in that statistic, Cal, the 40% of Gen Z and millennials are reporting having at least one side gig. Most cite financial strain, debt, and job dissatisfaction as their primary motivators.
And I can get that because they think they don't have to work, so they don't understand structured businesses that actually where you have to show up on time and you actually have to do what you said you were going to do because that product has to get out the door.
Or delayed gratification.
Yeah, it's huge, and it's contributing to, I think, what's going to turn into a really ugly collapse when all of this digital crap online, when people realize there's really nothing behind it.
The crypto you're talking about?
Crypto's one thing, but I'm talking about just this attention economy thing, like monetized podcasts and things like that.
Yeah.
Like there's only so many eyeballs and there's only so much attention that can go around.
Well, and I think we agree, on this as far as like side hustles and certainly not averse to them. I always keep my eyes and ears open, for a side hustle,
always looking for
live event, type of stuff. And so, but they're the basically, it's being looked at, as like a economic self-defense in a broken system.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think it's really, if you really, let's go a little higher.
Okay.
It's a transition. This is the interim phase between the old systems collapsing and new ways of providing the same services. We're in the transition right now.
Well, and especially with AI and stuff, it is. It's going to be an interesting.
So it's really not a negative. It may seem that way because we're going to lose a lot of things that have endured for centuries, literally centuries, are going to go away. Just not going to exist anymore.
So here's something to chew on. Let's say that your 9 to 5 isn't providing a livable wage. And then you bring on a side hustle, which is going to increase your time investment in survival and stuff like that. So is your side hustle really empowering you or is it diminishing from your potential? Because in the old approach, If you had a 9-to-5 job, if it wasn't paying enough, then you started troubleshooting of what am I
You
going to
start
do?
gaining your skills
Do
to
I
get
need
a
to go
better
back to
job, bigger
school?
job.
Yeah. Do I need to start looking at other employers and stuff like that?
Or
So
within
this,
the way move up.
yeah. And so the gig economy potentially, to me, could be an easy fix or an easy Band-Aid, but in the long run, it may be more detrimental for somebody. Or do you see that point?
I think we have to remember we're old, and we grew up with parents who had the same jobs for 30 and 40 years,
Right.
and got pensions and retired, and that's just what you did. That got screwed when they took away pensions and gave us 401ks instead and started crashing the market every 10 years. And our whole mindset
But it
started
seems,
to shift.
I guess what I see it as is that you are, let's say that you're in trouble financially, it's not it's not making the bills happen from a 9-to-5 job. And then you start going out and, putting in another 10 hours a week on a 40-hour week. So now you're at 50, 55 hours. You're more tired. You don't have as much energy, which means that you can't, put as much into a relationship or working out or, just releasing some steam from the pressures of life and stuff like that. So in the long run on the growth curve, you may actually, I think, get on that straight line with a side hustle instead of, say, going backwards, one step to go forward 2 steps. Again, the delayed gratification, investing in yourself. I think, again, it's just potentially the point that I'm making is that although they're necessary nowadays, that it still might just be a convenient Band-Aid fix that in the long run isn't the best for somebody.
I think people who do side hustles are already entrepreneurial and don't want a day job. Concept is that they will eventually grow the side hustle into a full-time thing and get rid of the job.
But
And
as you said, that normally doesn't happen.
it ends up not
So
happening.
because I think, wouldn't you agree that the 9-to-5 job in general is going to make a person more money than most side hustles? To have a side hustle that makes as much money as a full-time job, it can happen.
Sure.
But percentage-wise, the percentage of side gigs are just what they are. That's just like a part-time little income. The percentage of people that actually blow that up
Right.
is very rare.
Yeah.
It's rare.
Yeah.
And so I guess that's what my point is on a timeline. The time that you spend in the side hustle, and at the end of that timeline, what do you have to show for it as far as like extra money in the bank or being positioned to command more money for your skills, versus, again, stepping back saying, I'm going to really struggle here for the next year or two, but then I'm going to be able to increase my income command by 50% or whatever. And then when you look at on the graph and the curve over time, then you say, oh, that's a no-brainer. But again, these are things that people either aren't equipped, they don't have a mentor or role model to kind of point these things out. They're just trying to survive it.
Here's the thing. That job may not even exist.
That job, what?
Any whatever these theoretical 9-to-5 jobs we're talking about.
Well, they're already pushing to drop down to 6 hours a day, 6 or 7 hours a day, and take it down to a 30-hour work week.
Good.
Yeah.
I like it. But what I'm saying is now, if you've been at a job longer than 5 years, that's looked down upon.
Right.
Yeah.
Why?
Because you're not diverse enough. Things change so fast now that if you've been at the same company for 15, 20 years, you have no idea.
So are people looking at you like that, or the
employers?
The employer that has you for 5 years is saying, we got to get rid of these guys because
that's the average. Like that's kind of that's become pretty much the average
tenure
length of time for people to say that. And a lot of companies, if you come in, of course not the big old established ones, but like some of these newer startups and stuff, they say, why have you been sitting in place for 15 years?
Shoot,
like
man,
they want diverse.
After 5 years, people may be sick of people too.
That too.
Yeah.
That too. Because we're in so much each other's space so much more than we ever used to be. Back in the day, when people worked the same jobs forever, there wasn't so much emphasis on personal growth and development and evolution. It was just thought that, you go to school and you graduate and that's all you need to know, and you're going to do your job till you die and have your kids and have your grandkids and retire, and that's the end of it.
Yeah.
That was pretty much American life for a while.
So here's a good question. So are the side hustles of the modern expression of free will, are they a modern expression of free will, or is it proof that it just
More
no longer
protest.
exists?
It's more protest, I think. It's more of a, I'm not going to do this,
And it's kind
crap
of
that makes no
cool,
sense.
right? Having a side hustle is kind of cool.
Mhm.
And just like, yeah, Uber on the side, or I do this on the side, it's
Yeah.
just kind of like, people don't
And see,
think anymore, just like, are you not making enough money in your job? It's just kind of accepted, just like, oh, that guy's ambitious, or doing whatever it takes,
Mhm.
doing what it takes. And
Mhm.
so, I guess, but do you think that the hustle actually detracts or distracts from the systematic problems that we all live with? Just kind of having that, and people just, instead of asking why does everybody need a side hustle? They're just like, oh, it's just part of it. It's kind of like the boiling frog.
The idea behind a side hustle
Mhm.
is it like having like, to me, Uber is a second part-time job. That's not side hustle to me.
Oh.
To me, side hustle is, I work during the day as a project manager for some IT company, but I'm trying to become an IT consultant or a life coach or a holistic wellness practitioner or
Yeah.
an energy worker or some,
I'm gonna
temporary
up
or
my
something
game.
else,
Yeah.
and where it's a different vocation, not just a way to make extra money. That's a side hustle to me. A side gig or a side job is like Uber or part-time at some
Mhm.
restaurant while you're full-time at an office or whatever.
So you're saying
To me,
side
a
hustle is like
hustle is
is
bigger.
long term.
It's a longer,
Yeah,
that's got a bigger vision behind it.
because of the word hustle. Side gig, side hustle.
Those could be the same, like side job. I wouldn't consider a side job a side hustle.
Yeah, that's just another
That's just extra income. That's
to
just
pay the
another way to
bills.
make money.
Yeah.
A side hustle to me is like, I'm really going for it. I'm going to make it work here. I'm going to make this
Ah.
happen. Like, I'm hustling. I really want this. Like, you hustle for things you want,
Mhm. I like that distinction. Do you think that side hustles, can they become tools for like reclaiming autonomy?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm about that too.
Absolutely.
That's why all of this stuff is fascinating, because when you think about earned income versus passive income, and again, who knows, what'll happen, but we're basically doing a side hustle. This is a long-term thing.
Yep.
How important is it to have fun doing your side hustle?
I think that's the only reason to do it. I mean, why would you take, if you're not gonna, if it's not gonna be something that you enjoy and that you're going to put the effort and energy behind to really make it flourish, just go get a second job. Let
Mhm.
somebody else worry about all the overhead and just collect a paycheck.
Yeah.
Just do something
Trade
easy.
that time for dollars.
Yeah, yeah.
How can people build better decision-making habits as related to free will?
Oh, that's a
How do you do that? Your mental blocks that you have blocking
lots of
things,
self-examination,
and then the mental block
or
that you're
work.
building things, right? So the two words mental blocks, so one mental block is where you can't move forward, because of something that you're not able to get control over in your mind. And then the mental blocks that you
Building
can start stacking on
Mhm.
top of each other, to help you climb that mountain and see further
Yes.
than you currently can,
Mhm.
right? So same words, two different meanings,
And I do that double entendre.
but they're so important.
Very. And they both play into the concept.
How do you identify any mental block that may be hindering you from moving forward?
Hire a life coach.
Ooh.
Hire somebody to ask you the tough questions
Oh.
and be willing to answer them. But those are really good questions. Like, how do you improve your, how do you expand your free
Oh
will?
my gosh. You know what you just said as far as your response when I said, how can you build better decision making? And then I actually have it here. Life coaching and therapy as exercise. So I'm like, have you read my notes?
No, as a matter of fact, I didn't this time.
So
But yeah, I really, you have to get outside yourself. It's very, very, very hard to do this alone. I have, but I'm also a life coach, so I know what questions I need to,
well, how about this?
investigate.
How about this question? So let's reference like the paradox of choice, paradox of free will. Does more options equate to having more freedom or
No,
more
it
anxiety?
definitely does not.
Yeah,
More options is not always a better thing, especially if you're neurodivergent.
right. So between freedom or
There's
anxiety,
fine line,
it's a fine
yes,
line. Does one weigh more
between
than the
freedom and
other?
overwhelm.
Okay. How do you avoid that?
Self-discipline. You have to limit yourself.
You have to have another life
You
coach.
have to kind of, yeah, that would help. It's just, checking in with other people, whatever. But, you need to know where your guidelines are, where the boundaries are. And
Do you think that free will can be trained? Or what
no,
about having
it's
free will and losing it? Can it be reclaimed?
sure,
Yeah.
sure. I mean, prison.
Oh. Yeah, that would be a good little conversation because even after you're out of the cage, now we're
You're
talking about the
caged.
mental cage.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Caged
that's
or
a
you got caged.
good one. You know what? That would be a good show. To have a couple of former prison,
Mhm.
inmates in here one time. So I know that J Biggs had a great guest on his show, which actually, um, one thing I guess we'll mention this real quick. With these podcasts
Mhm.
that we're doing, would you want you guys to really kind of, if you can, if or are friends with us on social media and stuff like that, the entity World Matters Incorporated, of course, helped sponsor the show along with Big Bongo Productions. Kel, of course, throws down, as part of the partnership. But yeah, the local radio that is here, 93.7. These guys have some, pretty good shows that we want to kind of pump up a little bit. Of course, America Matters. If you are a person that's into politics, of course, that's one show that you could get into. There's some other ones. Of course, we have Jay Biggs in the morning, and this is, of course, an FM component. So he's on between 9 and 10 o'clock. And then we also, of course, have this established shows, Military Matters, with Ricky Harold and George Fleck. Those guys do a fantastic job highlighting our veterans, organizations that help our veterans. And they are also a part of the new podcast family. And then, of course, we have the Cowboy Shanamo Lawson with the Nevada Roundup. And there's a couple of other handful of shows that you guys can check out. So if you so choose to, definitely check out America Matters Media. AmericaMattersMedia.us is the website. And as these weeks go on, Kel, we're going to start accumulating a few more sponsors, advertisements, things like that we're going to give shout outs to. So you guys can expect that, but we're not going to spend a lot of time doing it. But we do want to show some love to the people that make this all possible. So let's get back to and kind of tie this up here as far as free will, some tools that, I've written down for increasing your autonomy. Of course, being able to kind of engage in more free will than not is awareness of biases that you have, a reflection of practices that you engage in as far as your habits, Kel. And then the last thing, what do you think about so tying all these up, being aware of your biases, reflecting on your habits, your practices, and journaling? How the power of writing things down. I want to hit on that a little bit. So what's been your experience in life when you're processing things? The difference between having thoughts in your head and taking the thoughts from your head, putting them on paper, and consistently reviewing them.
I'm terrible at it. I hate
Really?
journaling. I absolutely
Okay.
despise it because, uh, and I think this may have something to do with, at least for me, my neurodivergence is because I sit down to journal and it just feels so stupid,
Hmm.
like the stuff that I write.
Hmm.
And I'm just like, I know what I think.
You're so judgy. I'm
Like,
just kidding.
like I'm like, I know what I think. I never go back. I have journals, and
Mhm.
I've done it. I think the absolute crux of it is my mother busted my diary when I was a kid.
That's what I was
So
going
I've
to ask
always
you,
had a fear
of somebody
of
that's not supposed
somebody.
to read it.
There's no
Yeah.
one in my damn house.
Yeah.
I live alone, right?
Yeah. Now talk
There's
about an invasion of
still,
privacy. So yeah, so you have a, kind of a childhood trauma
yeah.
in a way, that prevents you from doing it.
Mhm.
Um, now that being said, there's, I think I've been taught and experienced the power of the difference between thinking something and having mental plans versus writing them down. And then there's something again about it coming from your hand versus doing it on a
It's
keyboard.
important. I mean,
Yeah.
certain, like when you're taking notes,
Yes.
whether you ever look at those notes ever again is pretty irrelevant.
Mhm.
It's the hand-eye coordination, motor connection that
Yeah.
you make in taking it
From here to
from
there.
here to there, putting it on
Mhm.
paper, writing it down, and your eyes then
And I
flashing.
think it's like, yes, once your eyes visualize it, it's real. It's
Mhm.
more real, right? Because it's a piece of paper,
It goes
with
through
your
your
writing on
activating
it.
system.
Yeah, so I think that's like almost the first step
Yeah.
of making things real as far as goals, right? Instead of having some dream in your head, it's like, sure, it'd be sure nice to, be this type of person or, have this kind of job and stuff like that. But once you start taking it from your head and writing it down and putting time frames on it and plans of action in order to start moving forward, it's powerful, powerful stuff,
Right.
and that, of course, ties into free will because you have the free will of doing it or not doing it.
Yeah.
You have the free will of picking up that pencil or not doing it. So whatever that advice were, I found that it's very powerful
Mhm.
myself.
Mhm.
So maybe maybe rethink that.
For manifesting and all of that stuff, it's very, very important. I'm just terrible at it.
Yeah, but the past does not equal the future.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
So now let's talk about cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT,
You
as a
know,
method of reclaiming choice through rewiring our thought patterns.
I will say though, I'm going to back up a little bit.
Okay.
In a way, I kind of use AI
Mm-hmm.
for journaling. I could
How do you
probably
do that?
I could consider
You mean as far as like a conversation or saying this happened
because
today?
I get it to ask me questions
Yeah, that's good stuff.
because I have a hard time just thought dumping on
Mm-hmm.
paper. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just like, this is pointless. Why am I doing this?
So
I know
you're
what I
using
did.
AI as kind of a ghostwriter.
Sort more as a coach, more as a coach and therapist.
Okay.
Like I'm not getting advice from it per se, but I'm
Mhm.
getting it, I'm getting it to ask me, you know, questions about myself and my own thoughts and my own, like, elicitive.
That is a great way to save money on a therapist.
It actually, you have to be
You know,
careful. You have
what
to
do
be
you mean?
careful. It does hallucinate and it will give you false information if you don't know how to prompt it right.
Mm.
So, because
On the
there are a lot of people doing it. They're
prompt
using it.
engineering.
Engineering is
Mhm.
critical. And there are a lot of people out there using it for therapy, and
Hmm.
it's not effect you have to be careful with it because it's designed to basically tell you what you want to hear. It basically takes what you give it
That's not good.
and kind of regurgitates it to you in pretty language and
Yeah,
tells you
because
how good you are.
therapy, they're supposed to be telling you things that you need to hear, not what you want to hear.
Right. And in coaching, you're supposed to be eliciting action and responses for them from them.
Interesting.
So there is a wave of what they're calling ChatGPT psychosis going on out there, where people are believing it's sentient, believing it can think and feel, think they're getting galactic psychic information and all
People are
this stuff.
People are trip.
People are delusional. People
Yeah.
want to be, people don't want to live in reality. They don't want to accept that reality is reality because enough of us have seen too many movies and enough weird shit happen in this life that we didn't, that is straight up unexplainable by physical means, that we know there's something else going on. We don't have a handle on what it is or how to access it consistently. So, there's that whole sort of, I call it the witchy woo,
Mhm.
out there where many of us do access it and have had experiences, but again, base reality is a very specific thing. So I think we're in the point now as a humanity and as a universal collective where those things are thinning and expanding, those barriers,
Mhm.
but they're still in place. So people want to escape. They're trying to get up out of things, and really the only way out is through.
Ooh, I like that.
So until you come down and get your feet grounded on earth and embody yourself and what it is that you're doing here, none of that stuff needs anything.
The only way
Whether
out
you-
is through.
And whether you want to call it spirituality or religion or faith or belief or whatever, until you can embody what is here, or what this is, all of that's going to stay in the realm of mysticism and irrelevance, pretty much. Because unless you can, I feel like I'm here to be a bridge between the ethereal and the material, and figure out what's going on out there,
Or at
and
least
translate it and bring it down.
to understandable.
Right.
Yeah.
Because there's so much, people get caught up in a lot of Buddhist philosophy and all these other, this other just doctrine.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, it makes them feel better
It-
when there's structure and rules and
or
somebody.
not, or sometimes it doesn't, though. They force themselves into these structures that don't really fit.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that makes
But
a lot of people feel better if there's somebody
there's
that's
sometimes-
seemingly in charge.
Exactly.
So
The eternal
they don't have to
toddler. People
think
want to be the
about.
eternal toddler.
Yeah, they don't have to think about things because all the thinking's already been
Sky
done.
Daddy will fix it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay. So a couple other training tools for increasing your autonomy, as I mentioned. So cognitive behavioral therapy. Do you know what that is?
Yes.
CBT. And so talk about this, using this as a method of reclaiming choice through rewiring your thought patterns.
That is, it's basically becoming aware of different patterns and thought processes, concepts, theories, ideas that you haven't been exposed to before.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of like how you manage your thought processes and then your subsequent actions.
Right.
You're evaluating that process.
And how you introduce and integrate new streams of information and behavior,
Mm-hmm.
and then evolve up to them from where you are.
Well, that kind of aligns with that whole thing about if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room, right? Doesn't that tie into that?
Yes, it's a really good point.
Yeah.
It's a great analogy. But greater humanity doesn't necessarily understand the need to grow and develop.
Yeah, that's a fact. That's a fact. Now, another tool
Or
for
if that's even possible in a lot of ways.
right, exactly. So another tool, final tool here, is stoicism for increasing your autonomy, your free will, and that knowing that you may not control events, but you
How you
control the
respond.
response.
Mhm.
That's a tool.
Absolutely, it is. There's a gap
Mhm.
between stimulus and response, in which you have the choice of how to react or respond.
I was struggling with that yesterday morning, yeah. But I think I responded pretty good. A little bit of stoicism mixed with sarcasm.
There you go. I vacillate. Like stoicism can go, like anything, can go too far. And
Yeah, because then you can be perceived as not caring,
either
apathetic,
yeah, or just what am I trying to think?
uninspired.
Inflexible. Just inflexible. Like,
Mhm.
I mean, just that's the way it is, and that's the way it has to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah. Mhm.
And it's and in the era in which it came from, I think things were probably quite a bit different societally as well. And so now stoicism, in today's day and age, can turn into its control, like over control,
Mhm.
like a hard line, or putting a hard line in the sand, or your foot in the ground, or just, stake in the ground, and just saying, well, no, that's the way it's going to be. That's the way it is. Da da da. And to me, that limits thought. That limits the ability, and I mean, some things are the way they are. It is what it is, but
Right.
not me.
So confirm or argue this, that you can't have free will without self-awareness.
I agree with that. Yeah.
It's kind of a little bit deep.
Yeah. That you can't have true free will, I don't believe, without self-analysis.
I agree. And then here's a question for you, or a statement. Go ahead.
With free will, you have to be able to not only see your own perspective, but how your actions will affect those in your vicinity.
But that people don't always consider that second part, though.
Right. And that's a big part of free will,
Mm-hmm.
is understanding the effect that it has on the free will of others.
Are you talking about cause and effect?
Cause and effect.
Okay.
It's discernment. It's empathy. It's compassion. It's it's getting outside of yourself, being able to look back, look inward. And a lot of people just don't even know that that's a thing.
So how
Which
true
freaks
is
me.
how true is this statement to you, or again, confirm or argue it? As far as free will, it's not just about choosing, it's about knowing why you choose.
Sure.
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
sure.
Because Art and I
Oh,
were
yeah.
talking about
Otherwise,
that.
it's
As far
just
you always start with the why. As far
sure.
as change,
hmm
remember our
hmm
conversation on change? You start with the why.
Yeah.
So
Otherwise, it's
it's
just
same thing with free will.
yeah.
It ties in with that also.
Mm.
So we're in accordance
Yep.
on that.
No, I agree with that too.
Does self-knowledge equate to freedom?
It facilitates it. It facilitates
To
it.
thine own self be true?
Yeah. Yeah. But I don't know that it necessarily.
Yeah, and again, I guess it's what your definition and what you're defining freedom
Yeah.
as,
Yeah.
right? Um,
And that's such a broad concept.
how does trauma, kind of going full circle here? How does trauma? You can actually even put poverty. It's a different kind of trauma, right? Being
Absolutely.
poor, so how does trauma, being poor, or conditioning limited perception of choice? How does that,
You still have
on
free,
a scale of
regardless of
1 to
how we
10, how bad is that for people? Those things
it's
right
not a
there.
good bad. It's not a good bad, right, wrong thing.
I see.
It's a spectrum.
Okay,
It's levels of the scope of choices that you have. Everybody has free will. Everybody has free will. It's just the spectrum of choices that you have may be limited or maybe different or maybe fewer or maybe less.
I think what I'm saying though, like,
Right.
so these things, so trauma,
They
again,
will affect
situational
it,
things.
affect how you use it.
Well, how does your conditioning of having a limited perception of choice, like, how does that? I guess there are times where there is truly a limited amount of choices, that you have. But I guess I don't know. I guess what I'm asking is just like, what makes a person stop trying to say build on a list of solutions? Where they just kind of get that brick wall, and they're just like, this is the way that it is. I just have no choice here.
By their own volition. And that's why they get into that crux.
Yeah.
They do not want to admit that they put themselves there.
Well, and what was the other thing I think that you said last week, or maybe it was with the conversation with Lana, is that you said ask for help. So if you
Yes,
say you have limited options, or you can't think of any other solutions, ask for help.
absolutely. Absolutely. Because a lot of times it's really just a matter of shifting your perspective, or getting a different perspective when you even consider.
Final question here: how important it is for a person to make sure that they have a community, or a mentor, or mentorship, or therapy to help unlock their free will when they feel like they're trapped in something.
I think it's very important and very beneficial. Is it required, necessary, mandatory? No. But does it speed up the process and make it easier? Hell yes.
Right.
Because I have slogged through most of this completely alone.
Yeah.
I've had little bits of therapy or coaching or class here and there and things like that. But most of it was me coming from the position of getting the information to then become a practitioner myself.
Right.
So not even taking it in personally for my situation.
Yeah. And just the dynamic, of course, it's not that it can't be done, but when you're dealing with things only by yourself, and I'm not saying tell everybody, because you should be selective with the people that you're bringing in your corner.
Absolutely.
Right. And so, but asking for that help, is critical, because when you're by yourself and you're starting to get discouraged, down, it's more difficult for you to have that self-talk than it is for you to have a companion or a mentor that's saying, "Hey, we talked about this. You've got this."
Right.
You
Right. Just that it's energy.
you're
It's that
forgetting,
personal
how
energy that you get.
special you are. You're forgetting how far you've come to where you were, and it's just, of course. And so it's such a good little piece of advice, is to, find a
Have your
co.
community. And a lot of us, I think, get into, oh, I don't want to burden anybody. This is my problem. I don't need to dump this on anybody else. That's where I come from. And
But isn't that a lot of times embarrassment,
it is.
right? And you let that stop you from moving
and you
forward.
use it as an excuse of, oh, I'm being good because I don't want to hurt anybody else. I don't want to dump this on them. But really, it's an avoidance. It's
Right.
avoidance because
Exactly.
if you have friends and loved ones in your life, they're there for a reason, and it's that's why you have a network. You don't
Right.
have one person like your spouse. And that's a big issue in society today, where men are not having the intimate friendships and are expecting their partner to be, mother, maid, pack mule, therapist, accountant, child care, sick
Yeah.
care, blah, blah, blah. And all they think they have to do is go to work and bring home a paycheck.
Right.
So, there's a very interesting fracture going on in society right now with exactly that of, who's responsible for what.
Well, we're responsible for us, right? Ultimately. Yeah.
But there's a lot of boys out there that don't get that. They think mommy's responsible for it all, and then they can wipe his mommy.
Yeah. That's
It's
true.
going so well.
Yeah.
Because we, women, now realize that we don't need men.
Yeah.
We're earning plenty of money. We can buy anything we need. We don't need, we buy ourselves flowers. We don't need some dude to do it for us. I buy my own damn jewelry. I've never had a guy buy his. I bought my own engagement ring.
5% of college graduates are females now, or something like that. So yeah, you guys are out there killing it. But heck, man, let's go ahead and get a little wrap going on this. What do you think, Kels? Was that a good segment?
I think that was really interesting.
Yeah.
Let's talk about.
Well, it was your idea.
Thanks. It just, somebody read something that somebody posted and it just cheesed me off. And I'm like, well, we got to talk about this because people misconstrue free will.
We could talk about almost anything that you want to talk about. You know how we're going to do it. But hey, all right, folks, that's a wrap on today's episode of What's the Matter. We unpacked a lot from, heck, man, Kel, we talked about philosophy, brain science, side hustles, survival, basically,
Next week we have Myri Townsend.
Oh, is that next week?
Yeah,
awesome.
6th.
Well, we're going to talk to her about some stuff. I think I'm going to put some Hollywood stuff in here.
Awesome.
But here's the question I want to leave you guys with. If free will is real, are you using it or just kind of wearing it like a badge while life makes all the calls for you? Because sometimes what we call choice is just reaction in disguise. So that side hustle, it might be your freedom ticket or a sign the system's broken and you're stuck building your own ladder. Either way, awareness is the first step toward agency, personal agency. So, but next week we're going to flip the script. I think we're going to talk about Hollywood a little bit with Myri Townsend, and who knows who else is going to come in there. But we're going to talk about what's the matter with entertainment. Is it still magic, or have the curtains finally closed on Tinseltown's golden age? So until then, this is G-Man for Cal. Stay curious, stay bold, and as always, ask better questions. This is the G-Man signing off. See you.